There was a time when people would cite flying saucers, and wherever they made reports, they were sometimes treated or ridiculed or called wackos or crazy people. What Dr. Hynek and his people are trying to do is present a forum where people can present the most unusual sightings and have them treated with dignity and without fear of being ridiculed. Would you please welcome from the Center of UFO Studies in Evanston, Illinois, Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Dr. Hynek. When you first get a report of a sighting, is your job to assemble evidence that will prove it to be so, or to assemble evidence to prove that it did not happen? You know, there are two ways to go on any investigation.
The first thing we do is to try to disprove it. Because what is the point of establishing, of perpetuating a myth or something that isn't so? And it turns out that some 90% of the raw reports, see, we have a nationwide police network, an 800 number that the police use, and we get reports every night from police departments or different parts of the country. Most of them are planets, twinkling stars.
Explainable or identifiable things.
The IFOs, we call them, identifiable flying objects. But that remaining 10%, those are the ones we go after. Now, a UFO, the U in UFO, of course, simply means unidentified. It does not necessarily mean visitors from outer space. But it must be unidentified not just to the person who is puzzled by it, but it must remain unidentified after considerable study. Then and only then is it a UFO.
What are you investigating right now? What have been some things that have come up in the last couple of months that you're looking into?
Well, we have a very interesting case in Muscatine, Iowa, just comes to mind. Sometimes, you know, animals are the first things to give warning that something strange is going on.
Anytime. In California, for example, before an earthquake, the animal kingdom is aware of it long before we are. They do
That's true.
things.
Now, we had a letter from a chap saying that what first called my attention to something going on was the fuss that the horses were raising in the barn. But this time it's rabbits. It's a rather interesting story. There's a chap that runs a toll gate at Muscatine, Iowa, across the river there. And he runs from the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift.
Works the all-night, okay.
Yeah, and about 3 o'clock in the morning, it has been his custom for quite a while to feed the wild rabbits. He takes carrots and tosses them out, and the rabbits grab a carrot and dash off. At this time, at 10 minutes to 3, he goes out there, and the rabbits are just lying flat and immobile on the cement, just absolutely not dead, but just as though they were petrified, paralyzed. And simultaneously, as soon as he sees that, he hears a humming sound, loud humming sound, and a large yellow object rises from across the river and comes across. And the whole thing lasted for some 6 minutes. As soon as it was gone, the rabbits jumped back to life and scurried off. And also, at the same time, we're still investigating, there was a concomitant power outage in Muscatine. Now, we don't know whether that had anything to do with the UFO or not, but it may have.
Usually there is some kind of a power fluctuation or power outage.
So those are the sorts of things that we investigate.
All right. And but you have no, the jury's still out on this one.
The jury's still out on that one, yeah.
What do you think the government knows about UFOs that they're not telling us? If you could say it in a sentence or two before I introduce Mr. Gersten here.
Yeah, that's his baby, and the point is that I was with Project Blue Book, of course, for a long while. In fact, it was as an astronomer that I got into this. I think it's always important to, for me, it's important to recognize that I am an astronomer and got into it because the Air Force needed an astronomer. And in fact, I continue to be an astronomer. I'm going to have a monthly column in Science Digest on astronomy, not on UFOs. Now, in my association with Project Blue Book, I know very well that it was not a scientific project. Also, I also know that they never would notify the media when an interesting case came up. They did everything they could to keep it down. So they definitely withheld information. I will not go so far as to say that it was a Machiavellian, sinister cover-up
or conspiracy.
Conspiracy. I don't like those terms, but withholding of documents, yes, and that's exactly what Peter Gersten has been so good at getting. And
so diligent in pursuing it through the Freedom of Information Act. Well, let me do a station break here, and we'll bring Mr. Gersten out, and we'll have a little go at this.
Good.
We know when I first interviewed Alan years ago, there was a theory going around that anybody who saw a flying saucer was probably befuddled by swamp gas somewhere in Louisiana and didn't know what he or she was seeing. We've had a lot of documentation since that time.
I think that one of the main things that has come out here that Peter has done is to substantiate the credibility of many of the civilians, because it was easy to, and still is, to discredit a civilian. Much more difficult to discredit a military man. In Blue Book, for instance, we would get reports from military pilots, and that was particularly embarrassing to the Air Force because after they had trained those men, and they couldn't very well, they could say that a civilian pilot might have been untrustworthy, but they could hardly say that of their own military pilots, and we got case after case after case from military pilots which never hit the press.
Remember about 10 years ago, maybe even longer, there were reports of sightings in the daily press on an almost weekly basis. There'd be an account on page 3 or 4 of most major newspapers that somebody somewhere in this country had sighted a flying saucer. Oftentimes there'd be a photograph of the sky with an object. You don't see much of that in newspapers anymore. Are there no sightings, or is the press not reporting them? Do they consider it not to be newsworthy?
That's it. To a large extent, it's no longer news because the same sorts of things are being reported. You see, if it was something new, this is the one. There are 3 things about this whole thing, Tom, that no one can deny. They're incontrovertible points. Even the grossest skeptic can't deny them. First of all is that the UFO reports not only exist but persist. See, when I started with the Air Force, I thought that this was a fad. In a few years, would just disappear.
All over, okay.
And it's global. We have reports now from 140 countries. I mean, practically as many countries as there are in the United Nations. And the most important of the 3 things is that many, unfortunately not all, but many of the reports come from highly, highly credible, technically trained people, you see.